The Nintendo Switch 2 has been out for about 2 weeks now, and honestly, I've got some thoughts on it. I'm going to try and be as detailed as possible with what I like about the system and what I don't like about the system so far, so if you guys do enjoy this video, definitely make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, all that stuff down below, and of course, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos, and consider becoming a ZakPak member. You get a bunch of cool perks for doing so. And without any further ado, you guys, let's just get right on into the video. Firstly, let's talk about the console itself. Personally, I absolutely love this thing. The bigger display is just nicer. I love having a bigger screen just so that the game looks a little bit bigger, and I just prefer that. But also, even though this isn't an OLED screen like the Switch OLED, it actually has a really nice screen. Way better than what the launch Nintendo Switch had. Plus, of course, we can't talk about the new Switch without talking about the magnetic Joy-Cons. These things are so easy to put on and take off. It makes the original Switch look like an absolute nightmare. I think design-wise, as a whole, I freaking love this thing, even if the joysticks aren't Hall Effect, which people, at first I was like, okay, them not being Hall Effect isn't automatically the end of the world, because there are loads of non-Hall Effect sticks that don't have that drifting issue that the original Nintendo Switch had. But when people actually broke down the Joy-Cons and looked at the internal components, it does seem like they're using a lot of the same methodologies and how they made these things to the original Joy-Con. So it is a little bit scary, but it's one of those things that we're not going to know until we actually spend more time with the Joy-Cons. I haven't seen any real reports about the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons drifting, so it remains to be seen if we're going to have the same drifting issue that the Nintendo Switch 1 had. And then also quickly mentioning the actual materials in the console itself, it's actually some pretty high-end stuff. I really think it has a more durable feel than the last Nintendo Switch. Everything here just feels like it's top quality, more high-end than even the original Nintendo Switch. And then the battery life. I know a lot of people were complaining about the length of the Switch 2's battery life, but I've come across no issues with it yet. It's suitable for how I play the Nintendo Switch, which is no more than at a couple hours at a time, obviously specifically in handheld mode. Dock, this isn't an issue, but in handheld mode, I've had absolutely no issues with the battery life thus far. Okay, so let's quickly actually talk about some of the games I've been playing on the Nintendo Switch 2. The first of which being, obviously, Mario Kart World. This is the brand new Mario Kart game, the first time in over 10 years that we've actually had a new Mario Kart game, and it is freaking stellar. Do I wish maybe there were a few more courses, or maybe there were some other characters added in? Of course, but that's with every single Mario Kart game. I feel like it's chock full of content with a bunch of unlockables, a bunch of courses for you to play, and including all those intermissions, there's just an unlimited amount of ways to race on all these tracks, with Knockout Tour being a standout mode in this game, being one of my favorite additions to Mario Kart ever. The only weak spot, in my personal opinion, with Mario Kart World isn't even the open world, which I'm hearing a lot of other people talk about. It's actually the battle mode. I feel like the battle mode is the one part about Mario Kart World that is pretty weak. I wish there was like the Ba-Bomb mode. I wish they had some smaller maps for more up-close combat. But the battle mode was never really a mode that I did that much anyways, so it's not that big of a deal for me. The next game that I played quite a bit is Cyberpunk 2077. This game was going to be the real test for how much the Switch 2 could handle, because obviously Cyberpunk is a game that had a really hard time running on basically anything at one point back when it first launched, and even now, things like the Steam Deck, they do still have a somewhat difficult time running it. And I can happily say that the Switch 2 actually runs it pretty freaking well. Yeah, it's not like 60 frames per second or anything, which most modern games are, but honestly, it is a very stable 30, and I had a pleasant time playing it. I remember someone on Twitter or something posted some footage of Cyberpunk 2077 with one of the driving sequences and saying that, it doesn't run well. I don't know what that guy was smoking, but my experience with Cyberpunk has been really smooth so far. And then the last Switch 2 game that I've really been playing is Hogwarts Legacy. Now, this one was going to be an interesting one for a different reason than Cyberpunk, mostly because of the fact that we had Hogwarts Legacy on the Nintendo Switch 1. and it was playable, but it was rough. So, how did Hogwarts Legacy fare on the Switch 2? Really freaking well. This game runs really well. There were some moments in some cutscenes that I didn't notice some frame drops, but honestly, most of the game, at least where it mattered, really ran smoothly for me, and I really think this game does a great job at running. I also really wanted to mention some of the things that you can get with the Nintendo Switch 2, because the console obviously comes with the Joy-Cons, it comes with the dock, it comes with the tablet, but some of the other things you can get with it include this new Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller, which, honestly, I wasn't initially sold on getting it because I was like, it's probably not much different from the Nintendo Switch 1 Pro Controller. And to be fair, it really isn't. It is very similar to the Nintendo Switch 1 Pro Controller. But it does have quite a few notable differences. Firstly, some new things it has on the controller are a headphone jack, where you can obviously plug in a headset to use the game chat feature. Speaking of the game chat feature, there is of course the game chat button, where if you hit it you can create or join a voice chat, all that jazz. And of course on the back, we have these programmable GL and GR buttons that you can program to any button on the controller, which is really freaking handy. Especially probably in a game like Luigi's Mansion 3, where, the bumpers and all that can be used to do the strobe bulb and the dark light and all that. I'd actually probably reprogram those to these back buttons. Not to mention, you can actually have those back buttons programmed on a per game basis, so you can set them to be different depending on which game you're playing, which is absolutely huge. And then I want to mention that the plastic and just the materials of this controller do feel a lot different than the Nintendo Switch 1, which is ultimately what made me buy the controller at the end, because the back buttons were a big selling point, but also having this controller feel nicer. There's a different plastic used for it, it feels a little more premium, and plus I really liked the gray accents on the controller. It really made this a must-buy for me, but don't get me wrong, if you have a Nintendo Switch 1 Pro Controller, you definitely don't need to upgrade if those extra bells and whistles aren't for you. I mean, $85 is a lot for a controller. But honestly, if I'm going to be gaming through this whole generation, I really wanted to make sure that I had the most up-to-date controller. So that's why I ended up getting it, and I don't regret it at all. I actually did end up getting another controller that I actually didn't show off in my unboxing video, and that is, of course, the Nintendo GameCube NSO controller. It comes with a power cord, but it basically is a fully fledged, full proper controller. Unlike something like the N64 or the NES or the Super Nintendo controllers that don't have all of the available options for, they don't have two thumbsticks and all the bumpers and triggers. This controller has everything. It has the home button, the capture button, the chat button, it has two thumbsticks, it has both bumpers and triggers. It has everything. The only thing it doesn't have, obviously, is the clicking in of the sticks, and I believe it doesn't have a minus button, but that's about it. It is such a great controller, but there are a couple things that hold it back, which are admittingly pretty minor. Firstly, if you want to use this controller in anything other than GameCube games, you'll want to know that the triggers and the bumpers are flipped from how they are on a Pro Controller. The ZL and ZR buttons are naturally where the Z buttons are on the controller, and then the left and right buttons are where the triggers are on this controller, which makes sense for the GameCube controller. But for the Pro Controller, as you can see here, the ZL and ZR are actually the triggers instead of the bumpers. So whenever you play a game like, for example, Luigi's Mansion 3, you wouldn't be able to vacuum using the right bumper, or trigger, sorry. You would have to use the Z button. And outside of the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube app, there's no way to button map your controller to actually flip that. So it is a little bit of a oof kind of situation. And also another thing that is kind of an oof situation, actually using these triggers, they are not analog. So you're not really going to notice it for something like F-Zero, for instance. At least I didn't notice it when I was playing F-Zero. But when I loaded in Super Mario 3D All-Stars and played Super Mario Sunshine, there is no way to actually use the analog triggers when you're using FLUDD. So it does kind of suck that even though this is an authentic, as close as you can get to the real deal GameCube controller, there are certain things about it that don't quite work outside of the actual GameCube NSO app. But within the actual GameCube NSO app, it is freaking fun actually getting to play all these games with the GameCube controller. And then of course you have a little added detail of holding the stick in whatever direction before opening the app, and you get the GameCube boot up screen. I'm sorry, that is just such a nice touch. I just think as a GameCube fan, as a GameCube enthusiast, this is like easily one of the best controllers to get. Again, playing it outside of the NSO GameCube app is a little hard because of the bumpers and triggers and such, but other than that, actually playing the GameCube games, it is great. I will say though, only having 3 games at launch is kind of a bummer. I mean, especially because the 3 games they chose, while they're all good, they seem a bit random. I mean, Wind Waker is a no-brainer. It's freaking Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. But then you have Soul Calibur 2 and F-Zero GX. Great games, but I feel like there should have been a party game in there of some sort, whether it's a Mario Party game, or Super Smash Brothers, or a Mario sports game like Mario Strikers, something like that, just to give you a little more of a better, because not saying that F-Zero GX isn't a great co-op experience, or like a game that you can play with your friends, but I feel like having one of those other games would have suited it very well. And I feel like just having another single-player game probably would have done well as well. A game like Super Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Metroid Prime, Pikmin, one of those games also thrown in to at least round out the starting lineup of games at 5 would have sat better with me than the 3 that we got. Overall, you guys, the Nintendo Switch 2, I am loving this thing so far. It has its little things that irk me, like with what I said about the GameCube controller, and of course there's no real themes or more customizations that you can do to the home screen. The UI is very similar to the original Switch, but this is a case of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the things that were broke, they seemingly did fix. Again, Joy-Cons withstanding. We're still not completely certain about those just yet, but honestly, I'm really loving this device. I'm loving how much of an upgrade it feels over the Switch. If I were to think of one other complaint, and this is actually coming, as you can see, I don't have my Switch games behind me anymore because I'm getting rid of them. By getting rid, I mean selling them. I'm not just throwing them out. But I'm realizing getting some of those games back digitally, that storage space is actually an issue now that I'm going into a digital future, and those SD cards are ridiculously hard to get. So I'm kind of just twiddling my thumbs waiting for an SD card to become available, and I don't want to get the 256 one because I know I'll want to upgrade to the 516 or the 1000, or 1 terabyte micro SD express card. But that's a whole other issue. But nevertheless, like I said, I love this thing. There are things that I really want them to work on and improve as the system goes on, some certain little quirks, but I still think that it's a great system, and I cannot wait to see what the future of this system holds, as it's already breaking records, and I cannot wait to see what it can do. So, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Did you get a Nintendo Switch 2, and what did you think of it? Are you enjoying it? Are you regretting your purchase? Let me know down in the comments down below. So, if you enjoyed today's video, definitely make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and of course, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos, and of course, consider becoming a ZakPak member. Like I said earlier, you get a bunch of cool perks, and until next time, you guys, I'll see you all in the next video.